Hello everyone and welcome to another Star Wars review. Today we're going to take a look at a vehicle from Hasbro and it comes to us direct from Star Wars The Force Awakens. This next video is going to be on this vehicle, the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter. Now don't let the packaging deceive you. Despite a very nice box, the product inside leaves a lot to be desired, and I'll talk about why that is in just a little bit. Before I do want to touch base on the fact that I didn't pay full retail price for this one. By no means is this worth the full retail cost of £30, which this thing currently retails for here in the UK. But recently, Tesco supermarkets here in the UK did run a special promotion where they reduced this vehicle down to £10. Now, I did take advantage of this offer, and I also had a few discount codes to use as well. So I did pick this one up for, I think it was around £6.50, which in many ways is probably the only amount that this vehicle is worth. As I said, the product inside has several faults that I'm going to touch base on later on in the review. But again, for the price that I paid for it, I can't complain too much. I personally wouldn't recommend paying the full retail price for this one, and you'll find out why in just a little bit. Now, while we're on the subject of the packaging, this is of course the box that it comes in. We have the Kylo Ren brand image and the Force Awakens logo just at the side. Some very cool artwork of the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter in action, as you can see being pursued there by a couple of Resistance X-Wings. We also have the window there where the TIE Fighter pilot figure will sit. This is one of the redeeming features of the vehicle, is the fact that we actually get a figure packed in with it. And then on the reverse side, as you can see, you have a brief description of the product, the Force Awakens logo once again, as well as an image of the TIE Fighter accompanied by some of the features that it has. Just below that you'll see some other products available in the Force Awakens line. We have the figure and vehicle pack featuring Kanan and the Y-Wing Scout Bomber. There's the Resistance Trooper and a Poe Dameron as well from the basic 3 3/4 inch figure line. So that is the box that the TIE Fighter comes in. As you can see on the side as well, we have some really cool artwork of the pilot. So that's the box. As I said, packaging absolutely gorgeous, really nice presentation, but what's inside is pretty poor. Now we'll kick things off by taking a look at the included TIE Fighter pilot figure, who I've got to say is absolutely awesome. I'm really impressed with this guy. He is a slight improvement over the basic carded Build-A-Weapon TIE Fighter pilot figure that was released. I have reviewed that one, so again, that review should pop up on screen for you to check out if you haven't already. Obviously, the main differences between the two figures are the fact that the one included with the TIE Fighter features a removable helmet. Now, this is evident by the fact that not only is he packed in the box with his helmet off, but once the helmet is on, as you can see, it's a lot larger than the basic 3 3/4 inch version that was released in the Build-A-Weapon line. The helmet itself obviously can be removed and just slips off like so, and underneath we have just a generic pilot head. As you can see on the chest there, once the helmet and chest apparatus is removed, you have this sort of gaping hole which looks a little bit silly. Really not needed or necessary. Obviously when the helmet is replaced, that chest box just plugs in there, but quite frankly it would have been nicer if that armour plate underneath was just smoothed over and this chest box just laid over the top of it. There's no real reason why it needs to plug in, so a questionable design choice on the part of Hasbro, but not a major issue by any means. As you can see, the sculpt on the helmet is really nice. I absolutely love the look of the First Order TIE Fighter pilots. I think they look phenomenal, and there's some great detail in the rest of the sculpt. As you can see, all the buttons and switches on that breathing apparatus apply to the chest, creases and folds, harnesses and what have you in the uniform, and of course the First Order emblem on each shoulder. Also included with this guy is the small officer's pistol, similar to the ones included with General Hux and some of the Stormtroopers. And in terms of articulation, the TIE pilot features a ball joint at the head, swivels at the shoulders and swivels at the hips. So not the most articulated of figures, but obviously he can be seated inside the TIE fighter. So with the pilot aside, and with the good points of this product aside in many ways, let's take a look now at the actual TIE Fighter. And as I said, it's certainly questionable in terms of its design. When you get a first look at it, you know, when you see it like this, it looks really cool. Love the design of the TIE Fighters in the film. The black and red colour scheme really sets these off. I love the updated look to the TIE Fighters in the sense that the wings connect to the cockpit section via these large cogs. There are several improvements made to the cockpit as well. And just overall, they're really cool vehicles. In the film, absolutely love seeing these in action. In toy form, not so much. The first fault with this particular product lies within the wings. Now this is a common or a commonly known issue, not so much a common issue as every single version has this problem. But many of you will know that the fact that these TIE Fighters do come with very warped and very bent wings. Now on camera in this review, it's not majorly noticeable. And some cases are worse than others, but with this one, you know, the wings are just made of this very soft, rubbery, bendy plastic, and it's just bizarre. You know, really poor quality on the part of Hasbro. Again, if you see this in person, I mean, you can tell very slightly from the left wing, but it's just warped, bent, out of place, and just looks really weird. Not entirely sure what Hasbro were thinking when they considered using this softer rubbery plastic. I assume it was to do with costs, you know, keeping the costs down in order to get these products out there. But personally, I would have much rather paid a little bit more for this one and received solid wings. I recently compared this one to the Big Wing TIE Fighter from the Legacy Collection that was released around 5 or 6 years ago, and the wings on those are really sturdy, really hard. You know, not this rubbish. I really don't understand some of the design choices that Hasbro are making recently. This just shouldn't be allowed, especially at full retail cost. You know, this thing at full price costs around £30, which is a ridiculous price for me personally. I don't think it's worth that at all. As I mentioned, I did pay a lot less for this, and I'm really glad that I did, because if I had paid full price for this one, I would have been disappointed is an understatement. I think very annoyed, for lack of a better term, is more fitting. The wings themselves, again, very rubbery, very warped, but they do retain a feature very similar to the original Kenner TIE Fighters from the 70s and 80s, in the sense that the wings actually blast off, so you can recreate battle damage and you know, dogfights with this one. Rather than the buttons to launch the wings being located on the top, this time around they are on the bottom, so you just press those buttons in, and as you can see, each wing does pop off. The spring mechanism inside is poorly put together, as when this thing is on display, I've had this sitting on my desk for a number of weeks now, and I've lost count of the amount of times that I've had to put the wings back on because they just spontaneously pop off. When this thing is stood up, you know, you'll leave the room and come back 5 minutes later, and one of the wings will be, you know, will have fallen off, and the whole thing will just be sat at an angle. And I don't understand why. It's as though the temperament of the spring inside is just, you know, very unpredictable, and again, they just pop off without warning, which is very poor design again. Really not entirely sure what is going through Hasbro's mind at the minute when it comes to quality control, because things like that just really shouldn't happen. Another issue that I want to point out with my particular sample, I'm not sure whether this is as widespread as the wing issue, but the cannon on the bottom of the TIE Fighter, again, is made of a very soft and bendy plastic, and I don't know how well you can tell from the camera, but as you can see, I very nearly snapped this cannon on the bottom due to the brittle nature of the plastic, and also due to the fact that even though this cannon is supposed to turn a full 360 degrees, for some reason this is just very tight and it doesn't want to move at all, and again, because of the force that I've applied to it, it's almost snapped. So do be careful with that if you have picked one of these up. Again, just very poor issues, very poor quality issues rather, with regards to this vehicle. In terms of other features that it has, we do have, of course, an opening cockpit, and as we see in the movie, we now have space inside the cockpit for 2 TIE Fighter pilots. Now, in the film, as we saw during the scene where Finn and Poe capture a TIE Fighter in an attempt to escape the First Order, the pilots inside sit back to back. Obviously, due to the scale of this vehicle, Hasbro have just put the pilots side by side as opposed to back, which isn't a major issue for me. This is something that we did see with the 6-inch Black Series TIE Fighter, where both pilots could be seated back to back, but obviously this is a much smaller, much cheaper vehicle, and so they made a few compromises there in order to get it out. As you can see inside there, I do have the standard Build-A-Weapon TIE Fighter pilot, and the one that's included just sits at the side. Although it's a very, very tight fit, you will have to do some manoeuvring to get both pilots in there. As you can see in the top of the cockpit lid, there are a couple of slots, and these can be used to store your TIE Fighter pilot blasters. It's a very loose attachment, you know, as you can put the blaster in there, but then as soon as you close the lid, they'll just fall back out again. So a pretty pointless feature for me personally, not very well executed, but you know, I guess the thought was there. There's also this posable rangefinder or antenna or cannon. I'm really not sure what this is supposed to be. I could do with reading the Force Awakens visual dictionary really, but this rotates and is also on a hinge. Again, not sure whether it's supposed to be an antenna or a cannon or whatever it is, but it's there and it does that, so yay. Also located on the back of the TIE Fighter is of course a viewport for the gunner, although again in this instance, unless you place your second TIE Fighter pilot with his face, you know, facing the back, this is a little bit useless. There you go. There is also firing cannons at the front of the cockpit. As you can see just there, there are a couple of projectiles plugged in underneath the cockpit section, and these are activated by a big red button on the back of the TIE Fighter. As you can see there, you just press that button in and those projectiles will launch out. Now there's a decent bit of range on them, and they're made of a very hard plastic, so do be careful when firing these. You don't want to take out your pet or kid's eye. There you go, they just fire out like so. Again, it's a decent looking product, you know, from a distance this looks really nice, and again I'm a huge fan of how the TIE Fighters look in the movie. I just think Hasbro could have done a much better job with this particular product, especially considering the full retail price. If you do want to pick one of these up and add it to your own collection, I will provide a link down below in the video description, but again, I really wouldn't recommend adding this one to your collection at full retail price. Wait till it's on discount, wait till it's on sale, or better yet, wait until you can get one for free, because quite frankly, this just isn't worth the money. It could have been so much better. The points that I've raised in this review do sound very picky, but again, once you get this thing in person, you'll understand where I'm coming from with regards to the quality. Very disappointing indeed. Again, the saving grace of this particular vehicle figure set is the figure itself. Again, a very cool TIE Fighter pilot that I'm really happy to have in the collection, and I really hope that this is the default TIE Pilot figure that Hasbro start to use in the action figure line, as it's very, very cool, and again a vast improvement over the Build-A-Weapon figure. So that is going to do it for this review on the First Order Special Forces TIE Fighter from Star Wars The Force Awakens. Once again, a very disappointing product, but I'll let you guys make up your own minds as to whether or not you want to add this one to your collection. There is a variant out there at the moment that's exclusive to Toys R Us, which features some desert weathering. The cockpit and wings of the vehicle feature some scuffs and you know, a little bit of wear and tear from the desert, and also I believe there's the red stripes on the pilot's helmet as well, which just differentiate the two releases. But again, at full retail cost, really wouldn't recommend these. But if you have picked one of these up, let me know in the comments what you thought. Very interested to hear you guys' comments and thoughts on this one. So that's going to do it for this review on the First Order TIE Fighter. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope you found it useful, and I'll be back with some more reviews very soon. I've got some really cool 3 3/4 inch figures to give you a look at, and some even cooler Black Series 6-inch figures as well, so make sure you stay tuned for all of those. And until my next review, as always, keep collecting, and may the Force be with you.